You replay that hurtful conversation with your child in your mind. You worry about whether they'll ever come back. You wonder what other people think about your estrangement, and before you know it, you're carrying around a whole lot of things that you were never meant to carry. I know how hard it is when you're holding on to hurts from your broken relationship with your adult child, regrets about the past, and hopes for your family that just haven't panned out yet. But some of what you're carrying may actually be getting in the way of your inner healing and making it harder for you to trust God with your future. So today, I'm going to help you identify 6 things that might be weighing you down. I'll explain why you might be still holding on to them and show you how to begin letting them go so you can experience more of God's peace. So if you're ready to do the work, throw some ice in your coffee, grab a notebook and pen, and let's dive in. Hi friends, welcome to the Praying Moms of Estranged Children podcast. Are you struggling with strained relationships and losses that have shaken your faith and left you wondering where God is? If you long for peace, a deeper prayer life, and faith that holds steady, you're in the right place. I'm Sarah, a wife, mom of adult kids, and your Jesus-loving friend. Here you'll find encouragement to help you trust God and practical tools to pray with confidence as you walk closely with Him. So turn off your alarm clock, pour a strong latte, and find peace as you trust God with your children and your broken relationships. I remember what it was like when so much of my peace depended on what was happening with my child. If things seemed okay between us, I could breathe a little easier. But when our relationship was difficult or something happened that I couldn't control, the worry and sadness would come rushing back. I would pray, of course, but still struggle to trust God with what I couldn't see Him doing. And maybe you know what that feels like. Maybe you're carrying the grief of what's been lost, worrying about your child's future or their relationship with God or their relationship with you, and wondering if you'll ever feel at peace again. Friend, I want you to know that your peace doesn't have to depend on what your child does next or doesn't do. I've learned that it's possible to move forward. It's possible to trust God more deeply, and it is possible to experience more peace even when your relationship hasn't changed. And that's what I want to help you do. In a Peaceful Mom coaching session, we'll talk through what's happening in your unique situation, and I'll help you create a personalized plan to help you take your next step toward healing and more peace. Go to bit.ly/peaceful mom, all one word. That's bit.ly/peaceful mom and book your Peaceful Mom coaching session. This might be the clarity and the next step that you've been praying for, and I'm here to help you. Hey friends, I am one of those people who loves to shop. And actually, I don't shop as much as I used to because I already bought everything from the store. I literally don't need anything. I could go my entire life and probably buy very few things and have enough to get by. Now, I promise I'm going somewhere with this story, so stick with me. I'm going to say my grandma is probably the one who's most responsible for making me a shopper. In fact, let's be real, she's the only one who regularly took me shopping. Every weekend that I visited my grandma, she would take me to the local mall, which was a really big deal for a 7 or 8-year-old. I looked forward to it every time I visited her, and we would shop until we dropped. And I mean that literally. I felt like dropping on the floor by the time we got back to her house. But first, I had to help her carry all those bags through the mall because we bought something at almost every store we went to. And then we'd lug the bags out to the car and from the car into the house, and I would finally collapse on the living room floor. Thanks to my grandma, I have never had a hard time coming up with classy things to wear. But by the end of those shopping trips, my little arms were full. And that's where I'm really going with this. I was holding on to too many bags, way too many. And friend, you might be carrying too many bags too. Now that I'm an adult, I'm not just talking about shopping bags anymore. I've been weighed down by some emotional bags, some really heavy bags, especially from estrangement. I see you over there too, weighed down, bogged down, and barely able to move. Some of the bags you're carrying were handed to you by circumstances you didn't choose. You didn't choose estrangement. You didn't choose some of the painful things your child has said or done. You didn't choose many of the losses that came along with that broken relationship. But there are other bags you've picked up along the way through your journey in life, and you might not even realize that you've been carrying them. And some of those bags, honestly, they don't belong in your arms. This is not a competition. There's no prize for the mom who worries the longest or carries the most shame. There's no trophy at the end for proving how deeply you loved your child by how much you suffered. And I want you to hear this. Your suffering is not a measure of your love. Letting go of some of that weight doesn't mean that you love your child any less. Enjoying your life again doesn't mean you've stopped hoping for reconciliation. Nobody is standing at the finish line of life with a medal because you endured more heartache than most moms. So some of the bags that you're carrying are allowed to come out of your arms. Some of those bags don't even belong to you. And some of them, friend, you've been carrying them so long that you've forgotten that you can put them down. You're simply holding on to too many bags. And you're worn out by it. You're stressed out by it. And you're missing some of the best parts of your life because it's really hard to dance when you're weighed down with all of that. It's really hard to heal when you're shackled to so much stuff from the past. And it's really hard to experience God's peace when your arms are full of burdens that He never asked you to carry in the first place. In Matthew 11, verses 28 through 30, Jesus gives us a beautiful invitation. He said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Isn't that what we want? We want rest for our souls and to not have to carry heavy burdens. So let's take a look at what's actually in your arms. Maybe you're carrying the bag of other people's opinions, constantly worrying about what your child or other people think about you. Put that bag down. Maybe it's the bag of old hurts, something your child said or did last year that you still replay. That one's heavy. Put it down. Maybe you're carrying the bag of regret, wishing you could go back and change the past. Set that bag on the floor and start walking forward. Or maybe it's the bag of worry about the future, wondering whether your child will ever come back or whether you'll ever have the relationship that you've been praying for. Worrying is not going to change a single thing about tomorrow, but it will steal today's peace if you allow it to. Drop that bag because it's way too heavy. And then there's the bag of responsibility for your child's choices, believing that it's somehow your job to fix, to rescue, to convince, or to change your adult child. Friend, that bag doesn't even have your name on it. And finally, there's the bag of what you hoped motherhood would look like. As you watch other moms experience the family gatherings, close relationships with their kids, holiday time with them, and time with their grandchildren, that you always imagined would be part of your motherhood experience at this point in your life too. That is such a painful and heavy bag to carry. And I'm not telling you to give up hope for any of those things. I believe that you can still pray for reconciliation. You can still hope that your relationship with your child will be restored, and I believe that that's God's will. But what I'm talking about is putting down the belief that your life has to look the way that you once imagined in order for you to have joy and peace today. That's the bag that we need to put down. Now, there are responsibilities that God has given you that really are yours to take care of, but there are also burdens that you've picked up that He never asked you to carry. Part of inner healing is learning the difference between those two things. So let's unpack these bags one at a time. Okay, number one, the bag of other people's opinions. This bag is full of questions that really don't help you at all. They sound like, what does my child think of me? What does my family think of what's going on? What do people at church think? Do they think I was a terrible mother? What will people think if they find out that we're estranged? Oh my goodness, it's like a major secret, isn't it? I know for a lot of estranged moms, it really is a big secret. They don't tell anybody because they feel ashamed. Another question in this bag is, what story is my child telling other people about me? You can't control any of that, and that's why these questions really aren't helpful at all. Your child might have an entirely different interpretation of your relationship than you do, and other family members might believe things about you that feel completely unfair. I understand why we carry this bag. We want to be understood, and we want people to see us in a positive light. We want to defend ourselves when we think someone has the wrong idea about us. But when you're constantly trying to correct everyone's perception of you, that just keeps you emotionally tied to something or someone else's opinion that you have zero control over. So ask yourself, am I trying to control what somebody else thinks about me? You can't control the stories that people tell about you, and you don't have to manage anyone's perception of you. Let go of the need to explain yourself, to defend yourself, or to convince somebody else to see you differently, and trust God with what other people think about you. Back away from that bag. Okay, bag number 2 is the bag of old hurts. This is the bag that contains the record of wrongs that has been done to you. The terrible thing that your child said 6 months or 6 years ago that you still replay. The birthday text that was ignored. The family events that you weren't invited to. The accusation that still makes your stomach drop when you think about it. Every time you mentally rehearse those things, you're bringing yesterday's pain back into today. You don't need that bag. Forgiveness doesn't require you to pretend that you weren't hurt, and releasing resentment over those wrongs doesn't mean that unhealthy behaviors suddenly become acceptable. You can recognize that something was deeply wrong or painful without continuing to carry that offense with you. Letting it go doesn't mean that you forgot what happened. Healing doesn't require amnesia, but you can stop rehearsing that offense and allowing it to keep taking up space and room in your heart. Take your wounds to the Lord. Tell him exactly what hurts and ask him to heal the places that are still tender, and forgive the people, whoever it is, for whatever they did to you. And when the memory of that resurfaces, instead of picking up that whole bag again, just pray, Lord, I've already given this to you. I've already released the offense. Help me to leave that bag there at your feet. Set that bag down and give it to God. Okay, let's talk about bag number 3, the bag of regret about the past. This is a heavy bag, and trust me, it is not worth carrying. It does not do anything good for you. We can all point to the things that we wish we would have done differently, and sometimes those decisions or those actions that we took really did have real consequences. You know, maybe you wish you hadn't sent that text message when you were angry. Maybe you wish you had listened more instead of immediately jumping in and defending yourself. Maybe you wish that you hadn't given so much unsolicited advice when your child was trying to make their own decisions. Maybe you keep wondering whether you should have handled that last difficult conversation differently. If you need to apologize, make a change, or allow God to correct something in you, then go ahead and do that. Just remember that learning from the past is different from living in the past. Regret traps us in this if-only situation, like, if only I had made a different decision. If only I hadn't said that. If only I had waited until I was calmer before I responded. If only I had recognized sooner that my child needed more space. Listen, we are not perfect. We do make mistakes. But you can't go backward and rewrite or relive any of those moments. Instead, you can ask, Lord, what do you want me to learn from the past? What can I learn? What can I take away so that I am a more healed version of myself moving forward? Take the lesson with you and leave the regret behind. You don't have to relive or rewrite yesterday before God can do something meaningful with your life today and moving forward. You're holding on to too many bags if you're hanging on to this one. Leave it in the past where it belongs. All right, bag number 4, the bag of worry about the future. You've got to put this bag down. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6, verse 34, not to worry about tomorrow because tomorrow will have enough trouble of its own. That teaching still rings true today because worry cannot change a single thing about the future. And yet this bag can get really heavy. When we're carrying this bag, we think things like, what if my child never comes back? What if I'm never part of their life again? What if I don't get to have a relationship with my grandchildren? What if Christmas comes again and my child still isn't there? Listen, don't suffer through a future today that hasn't even happened yet. These possibilities, I know, can feel really heavy emotionally because you're imagining them so vividly. But you don't know what God is going to do. You don't know what your child is going to do. You don't know what the future holds. Putting this bag down means saying, I don't know what my future holds, but you know what? I'm going to trust God with my future, even though I can't see it yet, instead of mentally living through painful possibilities that haven't even happened. You know, trusting God doesn't require you to know how the story ends. You can pray boldly for reconciliation while saying, Lord, I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know when you're going to do it, but I trust you no matter what to work out the pieces of my future the way that you want them to work out. So bring yourself back to today. God will give you the grace and strength that you need for what you're facing right now. You don't have to prepare yourself for every painful thing that could happen in the future. Trust God with tomorrow, and when you get there, He'll meet you there. Back away from the bag of worrying about the future. Don't even touch it anymore because there's not a single thing that you can do to control it. All right, let's talk about bag number 5. This is the bag of feeling responsible for your child's choices. When you're carrying this bag, you feel as though you need to fix, rescue, or convince your child of something. You're essentially thinking, I have to do something to make my child change. Your adult child's choices belong to your child. You can love, you can pray, you can encourage, and sometimes you can speak truth into their life, but you cannot make any other adult repent or forgive or reconcile or get help or return to God or make healthier decisions. And if this is you carrying this bag, I completely understand why you would want to hang on to it. You love your child. You want them to be okay. You want them to come back to Jesus. And you want your relationship with them to heal. So when you see your child making choices that are hurting them, you doing nothing to fix it can almost feel like an impossible thing to resist. But there are places you cannot go in your child's life. There are conversations that you're not invited into, and there are changes that you cannot bring about no matter how hard you try. This is where prayer becomes so important because those places that you cannot reach in your child's life, God can reach. So bring your child before Him and trust God to work where you cannot. Putting this bag down means that you have to recognize, I can pray, I can love, and I can make wise choices, but I cannot do the work that belongs to my child or the work that belongs to God. So take that bag off your shoulders and set it down. It doesn't even belong to you. All right, last one is bag number 6. This is the bag of what you hoped motherhood would look like. This one's different because you're not only grieving the relationship that you have with your child today, you're also grieving the future that you thought you'd have. You imagined family dinners and vacations. You thought that you would be there for their weddings. You imagined celebrating the births of your grandchildren. And you thought you'd remain part of one another's lives as your children grew older. And it hasn't panned out the way that you hoped. There's real grief when motherhood doesn't look anything like you thought it would. You're allowed to grieve those losses. But when you're constantly comparing the motherhood you have today with the motherhood you thought you would have, you're adding another layer of pain to an already painful situation, and you're carrying another bag that's making life today even heavier. Putting this bag down means releasing the belief that your life has to look the way you once imagined in order for it to still be good. You know, God can still work with the story that you have, not only the story that you wish you had. You can still hope and pray for restoration in your family without putting your life on hold until your family looks the way that you hoped it would. Trust God with the parts of your story that haven't turned out the way you wanted, while remaining open to whatever He is still going to do. That's probably the biggest bag of all, and you've got to let it go. You just do. It's time to put it down and walk away from it. We talked about a lot of bags today, and you might be thinking, how am I going to remember all those bags? Well, I'm not going to make you do that. I like you too much to make you do that. So I'm going to list them again here to make it super easy. And this is where I want you to get your notebook out. As I mention each bag, ask yourself, which one of these have I been carrying? Number 1, other people's opinions. Number 2, old hurts. Number 3, regret about the past. Number 4, worry about the future. Number 5, responsibility for your child's choices. And number 6, what you hoped motherhood would look like. Write down whichever ones you recognize and whichever ones kind of, hit a little trigger in your heart. If you heard one and you were like, ooh, that's really painful, that's probably one that's affecting you that you're still carrying. Maybe you're carrying 1, maybe it's 3, and maybe you just realized you've been walking around with all 6. Whatever your number, these are too taxing for you to keep carrying. They are holding you back from inner healing and from moving forward with your life. So look at what you wrote down and take those specific things to the Lord in prayer. Don't just pray, Lord, help me feel better. Tell Him exactly what you're putting down. Say, Lord, I'm giving you my worry that my child will never come back. I'm giving you my regret about that conversation that I should have handled better. I'm giving you my need to control what my child thinks about me. And ask the Lord to help you stop picking those bags back up, because life is heavy enough without carrying extra weight that God never asked you to carry. In 1 Peter 5:7, we're told to cast all of our cares upon Him because He cares for us. That's where I want you to leave your bags today. Leave them at the feet of Jesus. And if you're carrying something that's genuinely too heavy for this season, I hope that you'll also open up to someone else that you trust. Give someone the blessing of being there for you in your time of need. But if you're anything like me, sometimes we get anxious and stressed and we start grabbing bags randomly and clutching them like crazy when those very bags are robbing us of our life and peace. That's when you have to remember you can't carry it all and you're not supposed to. You can trust the Lord with the things you can't control. You can give Him the hurts that you can't change. Give Him the future that you can't see. And especially give Him the relationships that you can't fix. Take those bags off of your shoulders, set them down, and leave them at the feet of Jesus. And walk away a little lighter, knowing that what you've placed in His hands is going to be safe with Him. Hey, I hope today's episode inspired you. If so, would you click the follow button for the show and share it with someone who wants to learn more about trusting God? Also, please take 30 seconds to leave me a quick review of the show on Apple Podcasts. It means so much to me to know this podcast is encouraging you. Set your alarm to wake up to Jesus in your mocha and meet me here every Tuesday for a new episode. See you soon.